In the last video, we talked about and defined all of the kinematic quantities: position, displacement, the different velocities, speeds, and accelerations. Those definitions are always valid, and it's good to get practice with them. It turns out, though, that there is one particular kind of motion that occurs very often in the world around us, and it's worth studying in particular and taking those definitions and adapting them to that particular case. And that is the case where the acceleration vector, or some component of it, is constant, where it doesn't vary in time. Let me give you first a couple of examples of where constant acceleration motion happens, and then we'll look at what those kinematic definitions become in the case of constant acceleration. All right, so one example of constant acceleration motion that we see all the time, or at least some good approximation to it, is if you are at a stoplight, you're the first one in line, so there's nobody in front of you, and the light turns green, and you apply even pressure to the gas pedal to take off. If you watch your speedometer, if it increases at a steady rate, so every second it's going up the same number of miles per hour, that's a case of constant acceleration. The velocity, its magnitude in this case, is changing in a steady way. Every second, your speed, the magnitude of your velocity, increases at the same rate. So that kind of steady speeding up is an example of constant acceleration motion. You can imagine the same thing happening when you're coming to a stop. If you're driving down the road and you apply constant pressure on the brake pedal so that you slow down at a constant rate, that's another case of constant acceleration. There's another place this happens in nature that we'll study in a chapter or two, and that's in what's called free fall motion. If you have an object flying through the air and you ignore everything complicated, air resistance, drag, all that kind of stuff, and only consider the effects of gravity on it, then the object is in what we call free fall, and it turns out that that is an example of constant acceleration motion. The velocity in the vertical direction at that time is always changing at the same rate. There's the same change in velocity every second. So that's what constant acceleration motion is. Motion where the velocity is changing at the same rate as time goes by. So what I'm going to do here is write down the kinematic definitions, and then we'll apply the assumption of constant acceleration to them. And what's going to come out of it is 4 equations that we call the kinematic equations. They're very often used in physics, in this course in particular, and then we'll do some examples and get some practice with them. So let's start by writing down the kinematic definitions that we need. The first one that we need is the definition of average velocity. And I'm going to write it, instead of as a vector, I'm just going to grab the x component of it. So the x component of average velocity is delta x over delta t. We also need the average acceleration, x component, change in x component of velocity over change in time, and we need the instantaneous acceleration, x component, derivative of velocity, x component over time. Okay, these 3 definitions from our kinematics will be enough to give us the kinematic equations that we need. Now, the first thing to note is that if acceleration is constant, then the average value, this value right here, will equal the instantaneous value. So I don't need to make a distinction between average and instantaneous. If it's constant, those are both the same thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take this equation right here, and I'm going to set the acceleration equal to the right-hand side of that. So let me erase some of those, and we'll say the x component of acceleration is the change in x component of velocity over change in time. And that's because average equals instantaneous if the acceleration never changes. Okay, this delta Vx, change in x component of velocity, that means v final x minus v initial x. And we divide it by the time difference. Final time minus initial time. How much time passed during the motion that we're thinking about. If you have in your mind this image of a car starting off from a stoplight, then maybe we want to know how far or how fast or whatever the car was going after 5 seconds of constant acceleration. So that would be the times down here. And these would be the velocities at the beginning and at the end. I want to simplify the notation a little bit. To make our life easier and to make the equations easier to write down and remember, we're going to assume that the initial time is always 0. In other words, whatever motion's happening, we're thinking about the car going from the stoplight, we'll assume that it starts at t equals 0. It's as if we're clicking our stopwatch at the beginning of that motion, and that's our initial time. And that has the advantage of making that term go away. Now, if that initial time went away, I don't need to put the f subscript on this one. I can just call this t. And that indicates then any later time. So I'm going to erase that. And let me get part of my t back here. Now we just divide the difference in velocity by the time. And it's understood that the time t is the final time. Maybe we want to know what's happening 5 seconds later. That would be t. I want to do a similar thing with the numerator here. I want to simplify the notation. To indicate that the initial velocity, x component, was the velocity at t equals 0, instead of writing vix, I'm going to write v naught x. So that 0 there, or naught, indicates that it's the velocity at time 0. Now if I do that, then there's again no need to write the f here, and I can just scratch that one out. This one becomes a 0. Now let me rewrite this equation so it's a bit cleaner now. The acceleration in the x direction is the final x component of velocity minus the initial x component of velocity divided by the time. It's traditional to solve this equation for the final x component of velocity. And we get final x component of velocity equals initial plus acceleration times time. And if we were to read this equation and see what it's telling us, what it is literally saying is that the final x component of velocity is the initial x component of velocity plus how that component changed over time. That's what this equation is telling us. I'm going to write it up here, and it will be the first of what will become 4 kinematic equations. So we have Vx equals V naught x plus Ax times t. Okay, so there's our first kinematic equation. There are 3 others. We're going to do a bit of algebra. We'll come up with each of them, and then we'll do some examples to see how they're used. Okay, to arrive at the next one, I want to make a plot of this equation. So I'm going to come over here, and let's make a plot. As a function of time, we'll plot the x component of velocity. Now this is the equation of a line. There's a y-intercept, and there's a slope. So this velocity function looks like this. There's a y-intercept, v naught x, and there's a slope that's the x component of acceleration. The acceleration is the slope of a velocity time curve. Now if I want to know what the average velocity is between 2 times, suppose I have this time and I'm going to pick some later time here, and I want to know what the average velocity is between these 2 things. Because I have a linear function, I know that the average is going to be right in the middle, right here. That's going to be V average. So I can now, it's V average x. I can now write 2 expressions for the average velocity. One, halfway in between these 2 values, and the other one, I can write the average velocity setting it equal to this. So we're going to write average velocity in the x direction, v average x, and we're going to say it equals, from our definition, delta x over delta t. And then from over here, it equals half the final velocity plus the initial velocity, the average right in the middle of a linear function. All right. Now, I'm going to make the same changes here that I made just above. This delta t is going to become t final minus t initial, which I'm going to write just as the time t. T initial is 0, and t final just becomes t. And then for delta x, I'm going to have x final minus x initial, and I'm going to write that as x minus x initial. X final minus x initial. And again, the naught or 0 subscript indicates what's happening at the beginning instant when time equals 0. And the x without a subscript is the final, where the object is located at some later time. It's traditional in this case to solve this expression either for the final position x or for the combination of these guys, calling it again delta x. And you can do it either way. I'm going to solve it for delta x. So the displacement, the change in x component, the change in position along the x-axis, is 1/2 vx plus v naught x times t. All right, and that comes from the definition of average velocity and the plot of velocity versus time for a linear function. And that becomes our second kinematic equation, delta x. Your change in horizontal position is 1/2 vx plus v naught x times t. Okay. Now, for the third and fourth equation, what we're going to do is eliminate from these two each time a different one of the variables that are showing up. This second equation here relates the change in position to the final velocity, the initial velocity, and the time. And this one relates the final velocity to the initial, the acceleration, and the time. What I want to do next is obtain an equation that does not include the final x component of velocity. It may happen in some problems that we don't know what the final x component of velocity is. So it would be nice to have an equation that doesn't involve that quantity. So let me do that by eliminating vx from those two equations. Let me erase all of this first. And what I'm going to do is take the first equation for vx, and I'm going to substitute it into here. So that's going to give me delta x equals 1/2 vx, which I'm going to grab from the first equation and write as v naught x plus ax times t. And then I have to add to that v naught x. And then the whole thing is multiplied by t at the end. So I have delta x is 1/2 vx plus v naught x times t. All right, so let's look at what has happened here. I now have two v naught x's inside the parenthesis. Those two and the 1/2 will cancel, and we will end up with v naught x times t plus 1/2 a t squared. So that gives us the third equation. Delta x is v naught x t plus 1/2 ax t squared. This is the third of our four kinematic equations. The fourth one we're going to obtain in a similar manner. The only difference here is that we're going to eliminate time. It often happens in these kinematic problems that we know about how far the object traveled, we know what its speed was at the beginning or the end, but we don't know how long the motion took. We don't know about time. So it would be nice to have an equation that eliminates time so that we don't need it. I'm going to do the same thing I did a minute ago. I'm going to take this first equation, solve it for the variable that I want to get rid of, and substitute it into the second one. Now this time, I want to eliminate the time t. So if I take the first equation and solve it for t, I get Vx minus V naught x over Ax, and I'm going to substitute that into here, into the second equation for the time. And what I get is delta x equals 1/2 Vx plus V naught x times t that I just got. That's Vx minus V naught x over Ax. All right. So let's see what we get then. I'm going to rearrange this a bit. This 1/2 and this Ax, I'm going to pull together, so I get 1 over 2Ax. And what I'm left with is the product of the sum and the difference. And you remember from your algebra that a plus b times a minus b is the difference of the squares. It's Vx squared minus V naught x squared. If you've forgotten that, you can do the FOIL on it and convince yourself that that's correct. Okay, so here's another equation that tells us what the displacement is. You can leave this equation this way, but for whatever reason, it's traditional to resolve it for the square of the final x component of velocity. If you do that, you get Vx squared equals V naught x squared plus 2Ax delta x. And that's the fourth of our kinematic equations. I'll put it up here. Vx squared equals V naught x squared plus twice the acceleration times delta x. All right, so here they are, 4 kinematic equations. Normally I'll refer to them as equations 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we need to do now is get some practice using these. The way problems go in this section is that we are given some situation and we're told some pieces of information. We're told something about the acceleration or the displacement or the time or these velocities, and then we have to find other pieces of information. So the thing that we need to do is get some practice identifying which one of these equations is going to work in different particular situations. So it comes down to practicing and gaining some skill, choosing the right equation, putting the right numbers in, and solving for the right thing. So we'll do that in just a minute here, but before we leave, let me just make a comment that I did all of this for the x component. So assuming that the acceleration in the x direction is constant, these 4 equations are valid. But there's nothing stopping us from applying these equations in the vertical dimension, in the along the y-axis or the z-axis or any other direction. You could change x into y or z or whatever and propagate it through the exact same algebra, and you'll get the same equations. So just because I wrote x here doesn't mean that these equations don't work for the other dimensions. They'll work in any dimension where the acceleration is constant. If az is constant, you can write, for instance, vz equals v naught z plus az times t, and so forth. So long as the acceleration is constant, these 4 equations work. But be careful, if the acceleration is not constant, these equations don't work anymore. They only work when acceleration is constant. All right, I will stop there and we'll look at an example.